Comparison is the thief of happiness. Gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. Now, something I notice amongst a lot of guys that are looking to level up their lives and improve is that somewhere along the way, in whatever it is they are looking to improve, they compare themselves to others. And I'll be honest, this is something that I have been guilty of previously, but it's something that I shook off because the consequences can be really bad. I want you to think about it like this. Let's say you are trying to build a good physique. You've not been happy with the way you've been looking for a long time. You feel like every time you've glanced at yourself in a mirror, you felt a bit of shame. You know you're not exactly where you need to be physically. So you start to make some changes and you're seeing progress, but when you look at everybody else, you just see them a little bit further ahead of you. When you look at all the influencers and the people on TikTok and the people on Instagram and the people that you look up to in this space, in the fitness space, for example, you feel inferior. And this is one of the big mistakes. Look, a lot of you guys are comparing yourself to others. There's a Jordan Peterson quote that I like to live by. And he said, compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who somebody else is today. Because when you are comparing yourself to somebody else, you don't know about them. You don't know how long they've been doing what they've been doing. You don't know about their genetics. Maybe they have some super good genetics that allow them to look the way that they do. You're assuming by looking at them that you can get exactly the same or that you can't get exactly the same. This comparison isn't helpful in one way or another because, for example, you might be looking at a guy on Instagram who's in great shape, lifts a load of weights, can do good body weight exercise and that sort of thing, and you might be thinking, I really wish I could do that. I really wished I looked like that. And this guy has maybe been active on social media for a year or so and you've been following him for a decent amount of time. But the reality is he might well have been making videos for a year, but he might well have been training for 10. There's so much that you don't see. So this is why it's important, guys, not to compare yourself to others. Of course, you can look at somebody's physique or you can look at somebody's accomplishments within the business world and take inspiration from it. But taking inspiration from somebody or something that they've done is very different to this consistent comparison. There's an expression, don't compare, your chapter 1 with somebody else's chapter 20. And it's true. It's not a sensible decision to make, especially if you're looking to build something. Because another thing, guys, is when you make these comparisons and when you start to doubt yourself and look at somebody else doing seemingly better than you and then feel worse about your progress, you're killing your own motivation. You really do have to lock in, but lock in on you. You should almost live in like a tunnel vision state whereby the only times that you look at anybody else is when you turn around and look at what you've done. The only person you're focusing on is you. You can say, okay, 2 months ago, from today, I was in this shape. Am I in better shape today? Yes, I'm leaner, I'm stronger, I'm healthier. That's a good comparison. But if you're comparing yourself to some guy who's just starred in a Hollywood movie, who's most likely taking steroids, most likely has a personal trainer, a personal chef, you name it, recovery, everything, it's not a healthy comparison because, again, that person is on a completely different chapter to you. So look, only compare yourself to what you used to be. That's the way forward. Like I said, take inspiration from as many people as you need. I often take inspiration from people. There's some physiques I see online and I say, yeah, that's a fantastic physique. That's something to work towards. But you do that with moderation, guys, because look, ultimately their genetic buildup is different to yours. Their story is different to yours. And this goes beyond the gym. You can be starting up a business and you're not getting the success that you want to get, but you see somebody else in the same niche or subcategory as you getting loads of success and you ask yourself, oh, how can they do it? How can they get all this money? How can they get all these customers and I can't? We're doing the same thing, and you're failing to realize that maybe they've been doing it for a lot longer than you. You know, maybe they have had conversations with very successful people in the same space and picked up little gems and little insights, and you've not had those conversations to pick up the little gems and insights. But you have to keep going. But you have to keep going on the basis that the only time you compare yourself to anything is to you. No more looking around and saying, I wish I could be as good as them, or I'll never be as successful as them, or I'll never be as in good shape as them, because these thoughts do not help you. You know, your subconscious brain is very powerful. It's something I've spoken a lot about on this channel. And when you fill yourself with comparison, when you fill yourself with negative thoughts and limiting belief systems, your brain actually starts to believe the things you say to yourself and the things you say about yourself. It's really important, guys, that you don't continue and persist in this cycle of comparison filled with negative limiting belief systems. The only way forward in relation to comparison is to compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who somebody else is today. And I promise you, if you work hard and you are consistent, if you approach life with that way of thinking, and if you approach reflection and comparison in that particular way, you're going to feel better because you're going to be making progress. Every time I look back at myself 6 months ago, I'm pleased, I'm happy, because I know that I'm always going to be progressing. I'm always going to be working towards something. But if I'm comparing myself to some YouTuber who makes videos who's got 100,000 or 1 million, forget it. Do you know how quickly I would lose my motivation? It would be like that, because you would be judging yourself based on someone who's got years more in the game than you. You'd be making that comparison, and it's not fair. So look, compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not to who somebody else is today. It's something that I live by, and it's something that I think would really enrich your life going forward, especially if you're a guy that likes to compare himself to others. This is the only way. In terms of comparison, in terms of success, this is the only way. You've got to look back at your progress and your journey, not somebody else's. You know, there's loads of things you don't know. You know, they might have way more skin in the game than you. And what I mean by that is they might have been doing it a lot longer than you. So the comparison is inaccurate, but it's also unfair. You know? So look, take it easy on yourself, man, and start to look back at your wins and your successes and your results, and then make your comparisons. You know, if today you're not in a better position than you are 6 months ago, okay, we can have a conversation. But the chances are, if you're watching content like this, if you're this deep in the game of your personal development, then you are going to be making some results, and you will have made some results. So look, an actionable step for you right now is to look back and reflect on your life 6 months ago. Your money, your physique, and your social life. There's 3 categories. And after you've clicked this video, after you've finished watching the video, I want you to evaluate those 3 categories in comparison with 6 months ago. If you've not made improvements, okay, we need to get to work. But if you have, I want you to give yourself a nice pat on the back. Look guys, if you'd enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe to the channel. It's free. It really helps me grow the channel and produce this content to a wider audience. As always guys, comment your thoughts down below, like, share this video with a friend if you found it helpful. If you're interested guys, I run a free men's Discord community. The link's down below. And if you're interested in one-to-one coaching with me on a more personal level, click the link, book yourself a slot, and I will see you in the next one.